Oh, 1, 2, 3.
Kate Mila Falch, you're very welcome along to the Brian and Kieran Warfield podcast, the ramblings of two Irish balladeers, featuring Brian Warfield of the Fierce and Mighty Wolf Tones and his son Kieran, that's me, of the band Catalpa, and also of the Bandwagon Bus, Dublin's only musical ballad tour on wheels. So sit back, relax, grab a tea, coffee, beer or wine or whatever takes your fancy as we go rambling through life's misty foggy dew, through stories, songs, history, politics, life on the road, and just a general bit of crack. Okay, you're welcome along to episode number 4, and as per usual, we're calling it after a song off the very first Wolf Tone album, which was The Foggy Dew, recorded in 1965 on Fontana Records, and song number 4 was a song called The Galway Races.
I remember them well.
I remember them well too.
I tell you, I don't think I ever won anything at the Galway Races, but I always had a good time. We used to play like Chuck Furbo during the Galway Races. Oh my God, we'd have huge crowds.
Chuck Furbo was a great place. I used to love going down there as a child.
Unique place, wasn't it?
That was brilliant.
Yeah. And you know, the best lobster I ever had in my life was in Chuck Furbo. They used to have the lobster pots down on the edge of the ocean there. They'd pull up a special lobster pot for me. And the chef would put it on then, and after the gig at night, I'd go in there and eat a lobster. It was fantastic.
Wow, that sounds
the
like
the best I ever had.
And plenty of pints of Guinness Stosham.
Oh, yeah, I could...
I remember the little bar.
I'd love one now.
I remember the little bar in it. They had a pool table downstairs. You walk down the stairs to the
That's
pool
right,
table.
yeah.
And then they had... Was there upturned corks?
Trees.
Was there upturned corks on the bar, along the bar?
No. They were on the outside.
Oh, they were on the outside, yeah. But I remember, the trees in the hotel, and they had the river running down through the middle of it. That's where the Atlantic Coast Hotel is now, for anyone.
That's right, it's the same one, yeah. But I think, the way Bill Fuller built it was so unique.
Yeah.
At the time.
It was an outdoor swimming pool.
That's right, yeah. I wouldn't swim in it.
No, I wouldn't swim in it either. It was filthy dirty.
But it was a strange place, but a great place. And we used to have Martin Staunton, who was a great boxer. And we had him do the security, himself and his mate. Yeah, used to do security on the door. And we always saw that Martin was a legend. Yeah. He was a legend, a heavyweight boxing champion of the world. Really? Yeah, and he fought in the Theatre Royal, I guess in the 40s or...
So for anyone that doesn't know the Theatre Royal, where it was located...
It was a great big theatre in Dublin that held like 5,000 people.
It's a stunning place.
Unbelievable.
But it's located where not Marks and Spencer's, where Penny's is now.
I don't know what's there now.
It's down the side lane of GPO, isn't it?
No.
The Theatre Royal is over the other side. Was over the other side of the river.
Yeah.
That's where the big building is.
Office building.
Yeah, and they're going to knock it down. That's where they had the Home Sweet Home. They took over the keys of the building and they put the homeless people in it for the Christmas.
Really?
To give them a home, yeah. What was the name of that?
Anyhow, the story continues with he was fighting in Dublin for the heavyweight champion, once again defending. And I don't know who he was fighting, but the whole of Ireland had their shirts on it when they backed Martin. And it's reputed that Martin threw the fight.
Right.
And lost. And he retired after that down to Connemara.
Right.
Where he owned a lot of property, and he had a local pub there in Spiddale, and he done security for us when we were down Chalk Furbo for years and years and years. But he was a great character. But his buddy that worked there, I can't remember his name, but he was. We used to think, like, you know, I'd be buying the pints because they looked like fellas that didn't
have any money.
And they were loaded, you know. But it was said that when the other man died, the nurse was telling me that under his bed they found like 48,000. Yeah, and we were buying them pints all year long.
That happened to me in Rathcoole, and I used to go to buy me meat over in Rathcoole, and there was a vegetable shop there, and there was a little old man in the vegetable shop. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but I'd go in and buy me vegetables off him, and he wore this tatty old jumper with was like holes in it and all that. So anytime I'd go to the Rathcoole Inn for a pint and I'd see him, I'd buy him a pint and a whiskey because I feel sorry for him. And then one time I went down to get me meat, and going into the vegetable shop, but the vegetable shop was locked up, and I went back into the butcher's and I said, what, is he all right, or has he passed, or? And he says, oh, no, he's closed up now. He says he's made his money. I said, what do you mean he's made his money? He says, do you know that land that was down opposite City West there, shopping centre? I said, yeah. He says, sold that for 40 million. He never bought me a pint back.
There you go, 40 million, the more you have.
Would you swear this man didn't have a penny? He drove an old van, you know. But apparently they offered him 20 million, but he held it
for 40 million, my God. Yeah, well, that's the way it goes. Some have the luck, and good luck to them. Yeah. I've no envy of anybody. If you do well in life,
but
it's
fair
your
play
luck.
to them, like holding out for double price. But going back to Chalk Furbo, I remember going down there as a kid, and obviously remember the queues. There used to be huge queues to get in there from early. Like
that's right, to be queuing for air to get a good seat.
But it was in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, well, you see, I think before those strict drink driving laws that came in, people were more flexible. They could go, you know, to go further out. I remember for a show.
I remember seeing an ad on. It was an old ad from the Garda program that used to be on RT, and the guard was saying, "Lads, if you're going to have that, if you know, before you have that 6 pint, you know, you're on your 4th or 5th. Maybe just don't have that 6th. You wouldn't get away with it today. You'd be lucky if you could have a.
Yeah, well, I mean, like
a glass of beer.
Most people, like when you look at it, I think they went overboard with it. You know, you know, not even one drop. I don't believe in that, because when I was living in Inchicore there was fellas there that could drink 10 pints of Guinness, and they could still put 3 darts into one little piece of dartboard consistently. Like, and I'd be sober and I couldn't do that with 1 dart. But, you know, they could do it. And, you know, just amazing that the skill that they had. And, you know, they could have 10 pints of stout and they could still do it.
Yeah. But that used to be the way in the darts. I remember watching Jockey Wilson and what was the other, the English, the Crafty Cockney. I remember watching them play darts, but they'd be swamping the pints.
That's right, yeah.
And the same with snooker, I suppose. Snooker was synonymous with
now
drinking.
they don't allow it anymore on TV, you see. It promotes alcohol, I guess.
And smoking, the same for smoking.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's a good thing. You know.
Well, the smoking thing, yeah, but, you know, I think a fella coming back from work should be allowed to have up to 2 pints. You know,
controversial.
Yeah, it's controversial, but that's what I believe.
Yeah,
you know, like I think people that have had, you know, people killed or children killed by drunk drivers. Now, I've no time for anybody who goes out and gets gutted and drives a car.
Yeah,
but I've no problem with someone going out and having a couple of glasses of wine with his dinner and his wife, and driving home after that. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
And I don't think there should be.
Well, I was a very naughty boy when I was younger, because we live in the desolate hills of Wicklow. And you couldn't get a taxi around here. Like, there's no chance you could get a taxi. Like, and many times I got stranded in Ballymore, Eustis, and had to walk home.
There you go.
But, yeah, it was just, I think it was one of those things, though. I think everybody drove, with a few pints to the pub. Even down in the British Inn, like, there was people came from Tala and...
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I think when we had the British Inn there, anybody that got scuttered, they weren't allowed to drive their car home. They got a lift home from some way or other,
I don't know about that. Anyway, back to the Galway Races. The Galway Races last year was the first time it was cancelled ever in its history. And that goes back to 17th of August, 1869.
Oh, my God. I remember that year well.
That was the first time it's ever been cancelled. And good chance it'll be cancelled this year again. But the 40,000 people turned up for the first one, and it was promoted by the railways and everything. So anyone could bring their horse on the railway free of charge to bring it to enter into a race to try and get people
down,
involved in it. But the rail companies were very much a part of bringing it to the success that it became. But I was looking at some of the names of the stewards at the time, and it was obviously very anglified. There was the Marquis de Clanrickard.
Clanrickard, yeah.
Lord Claremorris and Captain Blake Foster.
Oh, yeah, Davy All.
Now, it's Foster Square in Galway. I wonder, is that named after him? Someone else?
Don't know.
Maybe tell us. Anyway, it was... I was down at the Galway Races one time, and you don't know this story because I know that because I asked you before we started it. And my experience of the Galway Races, I think I would have been about 17 or 18 years of age. And at the time I was working part-time in the British Inn. I was at college down in Carlow, and I got invited. My mother said to me, there's a certain policeman is running he's providing, I gotta get this right.
Security.
Well, not security. She said you'd be taking money at the gate, and that's all you have to do for the whole day, and it was a certain amount of money a day. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that for the crack. I think it was for 6 days. Went down on a Sunday, and the meeting was for 4 days at the time. I think it's 6 or 7 now. And so I had this vision of me sitting in a little box, taking money off people, going in, being all happy, and then once everybody was in, having a tot around the races, doing a bit of gambling or whatever, and just having a bit of crack in the evenings. Going to the bars and listening to the music and whatever. And then we went down with 2 other lads I met them in Saggart, and they were mad as hatters too. Great crack. They were like much older than me. They would have been 17, 18, they would have been 35, 40 years of age, but they were 2 mad yokes altogether. And I think we stopped in Moat on the way down, and we stopped in Ballinasloe for pints on
the way.
And then we got down, and the guard that we was involved in it gave us these walkie-talkies, and told me to go to the back gate by myself. And I said, what am I doing? He gave me a piece of paper. This is what you charge the vans coming in if they come up to the gate. And, so it was all the hawkers that were selling stuff in there. Yeah. So it was completely not what I thought it was. So I went up to the gate, and I was sitting there, and it was just, all there was one of these aluminium gates, tubular aluminium gates. Yeah. And at the back of the race course, right over the back of the race course. And so about 2 hours into my shift, there's no sign of anything, and then a load of travellers pulled up, and I'm going, oh jeez, this is not going to end well. And so the guy gets out. He says, I counted out, it was 3 vans or whatever. I says, that's going to be, he says, it's going to be nothing. He said, you're going to open them gates and let me in. I said, no, I can't do that. I really can't do that. I says, I have a thing here, I have to charge you. And he goes, no. He says, I'm going to climb that gate now, I'm going to open it, and you try and stop me. So I was on the radio, hello? Anybody there? I need help at the back gate. No sign of, the radio wasn't working. I said, well, I looked at the radio, I said, this is not going to end well. Your man was getting more irate and I'm more irate. So I just opened up the gate. I said, come on in, lads. Hit your feet. Have a nice time. I went down, I walked down to the to where your man was, Con. I said, that radio's not working. I said, you can keep your radio, you can keep your job. I'm getting the train home to Dublin. And I went up, I had a couple of pints in a pub up in Foster Square, just off Foster Square, and went home. And I was back training for Blessing Football Club on the Monday or Tuesday. So that was my experience of the Galway Races. I haven't been back since. But it's really like it's come on leaps and bounds. But one thing I do remember is the music and the atmosphere and the vibrancy and the whole thing around Galway and what it brings to it. And I love going down to Galway just to walk the streets of Galway because there's so many interesting characters down there. It really is. It's a great place for arts and culture.
Town. Great town, yeah.
And it's probably Ireland's festival. I think there's 120 something festivals there normally on a normal year without COVID.
Yeah. So Galway is well supplied with festivals. Yeah. But we had great times there during the races. The races where, you'd meet all the characters coming in to our gig. You know what I mean? There'd be people there you hadn't seen for years, like back from England, back from America, footballers. There was all kinds of people. But the song The Galway Race, I think, is a great song. And it's probably set... what year did you say it started?
1869 was the first.
69, yeah. Because the song mentions the Fenian prisoners from dying in foreign places.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would have been... that would have been 1873. So it sets the time of that song probably just after the opening of the Galway Races, which is amazing.
Yeah, so it's plenty
just shows you that song does tell the story in a real and true way.
Yeah. But there's a lot of songs that have a hidden Fenian... Well, it could be classes, like we talked about in the last episode, about a rebel song, but it has that underlying rebel theme, like the Hot Ash Veld. That has a bit of a rebel theme, doesn't it? Yeah,
well, I think you see, it was in the Irish psychic, like that. Everything, the same in Glasgow, like with the Irish in Glasgow, they supported every uprising in Ireland.
Yeah,
and Darcy McGee, when he was trying to get people back to Ireland to fight. One of the places he went to was Glasgow. They were sent in all different directions to different places, trying to recruit. But, the people in Glasgow, like in 1916, came back to Ireland to fight. So they had supported Ireland in every aspect of its revolutions. So why aren't they entitled to do out a rebel song now and again?
Yeah. And I was listening to a podcast today about Countess Markovic, and they were talking about Glasgow, in terms of they sent back, through Connolly's connections, they sent back a lot of explosives and stuff for the... Yeah,
Margaret Skinner used to carry them.
Yeah.
She used to carry them in her clothes.
Yeah.
And the women wore big clothes back then.
And another thing about the Galway Races, I didn't know, which was that W.B. Yeats wrote a poem about it.
W.B. Yeah.
He did. Yeah. And I wrote it out so that I could read it to you, so why not? I'll give it a go here. There where the course is, the light makes all of the one mind. The riders upon the galloping horses, the crowd that closes in behind. We too had good attendance once, hearers and hearteners of the work. I, horsemen for companions, before the merchant and the clerk. Breathed on the world with timid breath. Sing on, somewhere at some new moon. We learn that sleeping is not death, hearing the whole world change its tune. Its flesh being wild and at it again, crying aloud as the racecourse is, and we find hearteners among men that ride upon horses.
And I know Jack B. Yeats has a drawing of the Galway Races, and it's of the ballad singers.
Yeah.
Standing around singing songs, and he says something about the ballad singers singing seditious songs. So that meant rebel songs of some sort or glory.
So I'm going to change the name of Catalpa to the Catalpa the Seditious Band rather than the Rebel Band. It sounds much better.
Yeah, there you go. But, you know, there's always that rebel song and that rebel and the Irish people. And it you know, it wasn't... I think I was reading some book there where he's describing the Irish ballad singers. And the Irish ballad singer would suss out his audience, whether, you know, what he could sing and what would go down with his audience.
Yeah.
And if people asked, like, he would ask what type of song would they like.
Yeah.
And one of the type of songs would be a good old Irish song.
Yeah.
Which meant a rebel song. So, you know,
seditious song.
A seditious song. So, yeah, it's been around, of course, and we love telling our story, and you know that because we are kept down so much and put down for even singing, like a copy of God Save Ireland put you in prison. Flying the tricolour put you in prison. So, like, you know, we had that spirit of, you know, we're not going to stand down, we're going to stand up.
The wearing of the green.
Yeah. So that's why, you know, the wearing of the green, you go on St. Patrick's Day in New York or anywhere else, and you see all the green, and people in Ireland say, you know, what's all these Yankees doing with the green?
Yeah.
It's because they're defiant of the fact that they were not allowed to wear it in Ireland before their ancestors left.
Yeah.
So that was the importance of the green.
Yeah.
In all the bits of clothing and everything else.
Yeah.
Amazing story.
Yeah. I've been in America for St. Patrick's Day, and they do celebrate a big style, don't they? They really do. I've played in Hoboken.
Yeah, well, I think my first St. Patrick's Day was back in 1966 in the US, or it could have been 67. But I still have photographs of it. It was so unique to me, I took photographs. And
was last year the first time you've been in Ireland for St. Patrick's Day?
No. One other occasion.
Oh, no.
Yeah. We were either in England, Australia, or America.
All right.
One time we played the Albert Hall in London, and I remember
that's the big round.
The
one,
big round
it?
thing. Yeah, we played that. We were part of a program. We weren't full headlining.
Yeah.
And I think it was who was head. I can't remember now, but Eileen, Bridie Gallagher.
Did you play seditious songs?
Yeah, we did. We were playing the Foggy Jew at that stage. It was Bridie Gallagher was headlining, and she was a lovely lady.
I've heard some of her songs.
Very, 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 very popular with the Irish all over the world.
She was huge in Glasgow, wasn't she?
Huge everywhere the Irish were. She was huge, and you know, she would have been old school. You know, another generation removed from us. Like,
yeah.
And she was like that Albert Hall on that day we played it at that St. Patrick's night was filled to the brim. You couldn't even find a seat. You know, it was just unbelievable. And it was a first big experience of a huge, big show like that. And my legs felt a little bit like jelly.
Yeah.
But we got through it, and we received very well.
How long did you play for?
Pardon?
How long was your set?
It was probably about 15 minutes.
Oh, so not too long.
Yeah. But, you know, it was a great opportunity for us to get on a stage in front of such a gathering of people.
Can you remember the songs you sang?
Foggy Jew would have been one.
Sorry,
I can't remember the other ones. Probably Dicey Riley, probably, you know.
Yeah.
Could be in the One Road, or, you know, Nation once again.
I remember the first time I played the Barrowlands, and I'd only started out playing, like, you know, and I wasn't really very used to playing on stage. And we were on very early, because you had two other bands playing. I think Adelante were another band that were playing. I know Chris now from Adelante, become good friends. But myself, it was only the two of us, and you know the Barrowlands stage is a big stage. Like you have three of you now, but it's a big stage for two people that are not very confident, like, you know. And there wasn't that many people, but enough people that I was quite nervous, like, you know. And at the time, I was playing one of your old banjos, the Alvarez, the Mexican banjo. And I had a long lead on it that I had to plug into the DI box. The lead was stuck into the back of the banjo from the cheap pickup that I had. Yeah. And so I didn't want to introduce ourselves because I was too nervous. So I'll get Phil to do it. So I said to Phil, "Are you nervous?" He says, "I'm shitting." I says, "Oh, well, you're gonna have to introduce us because I have to plug the banjo in. So by the time I get down and you know people are going to be waiting," I said, "You introduce us." He goes, "Oh, geez, I don't know." I said, "Look, you'd be grand." I was trying to pretend I was cool. I said, "You'd be grand. Just pretend you're in your granny's." I said, "Just think you're singing for your granny, not for anybody else. And don't even look at the people, just look up at the lights." So two of us walked on stage and everything went silent. And I bent down to plug in the banjo into the DI box. And all I could hear was Phil saying, "How are you, granny?" And with that, the two of us just started laughing, and that was it. Like the nerves were gone, and we got through the set. Like, well, just brilliant. Like, you know, everybody in the audience is looking around to see if he's looking.
Is Granny here today?
Yeah, but great icebreaker, I have to say. Yeah. And it was a fantastic thing. Like just to come off that stage, it gave me huge confidence in terms of going forward and playing music, because I didn't have that many gigs under my belt. I think we'd played the Racoolin a few times, you know, and not many gigs. So it was a great experience. And the night before we played in the Fáilte, and Big John Aiken came down from Lockerbie. And we had a good few drinks, and we got on stage, and your man in Fáilte, the Fáilte bar, it's gone now. It was on St. Vincent Street, and he said, "Whatever, no rebel songs." This was the time, you know, when rebel songs were taboo in Glasgow.
They were banned.
Yeah. So we said, "Yeah, no problem." So we got on stage and we played away, and at the end of it, we had these 5 songs we finished off with, you know. And the crowd were liking what we were doing, and we were getting a bit more, you know, and the pints were flowing, and because we were only staying in a hotel around the corner. And so Phil goes to me, held up the 5 fingers, and I went, "Why not?" So he lashed it, which was the 5 songs was the Boys of the Old Brigade, the Celtic Symphony, Go On Home British Soldiers, and what else? The Boys of the Old Brigade. Anyway,
so you finished off with a bang.
I finished, and the crowd were absolutely going mental in the Fáilte. It was great. John Aiken was loving it. He was breaking his heart laughing. And your man came up after the gig and says, "You'll never play here." we didn't care. We just had the best night. Yeah.
Well, I think our big experience now in Glasgow, and I'll never forget it, is when we played the Apollo Theatre in Glasgow. It's now gone. They knocked it.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was knocked about. It started knocking about 2 weeks after we played there.
What part of Glasgow was it?
I can't remember the name of the street now. It's just in the middle of town.
It was in the middle.
Yeah. But we played the place. The place was stuffed to the gills, sold out. And I remember there was a huge stage, like it was probably about 13, 14 feet high. And I remember during the gig, like people were climbing up the stage just to get on the stage, and they'd give a big wave to the crowd would cheer. Yeah. The bouncers would go,
throw them out.
Throw them out. And then another fella come up again. And it was so funny. But at the end of the concert, like the people that were running the show said, you know, I know this place is closing, they're knocking it in 2 weeks' time, but I got to tell you that the bands are responsible for any damage that happens in the hall. So I looked down, and there was rows and rows of seats collapsed all over the place. There was a couple of... people knew it was going to be knocked in a couple of weeks. Yeah. But they slapped us with the bill anyhow. And we got a big bill that was probably a little more than we got paid for.
Jeez.
So I said, I don't give a shit. I said, that night was worth any kind of money. And I can't remember the cost of the damage and everything was over £3,000. And we just paid it over. I said, that was well worth it. And I do it again. People will tell you, we'd been held out of Glasgow for so long. And when we did get the opportunity to play the Apollo, I know it was just before it was going to be knocked, but when we got the opportunity to play it, people just went crazy. The tickets sold out like crazy because, we couldn't get in anywhere in Glasgow. But we did a night that I will never forget. As they say about the Titanic, it was a night to remember.
Was that 70s or 80s?
70s, I probably 80s, I think. Probably, I can't remember the year. I'm terrible at remembering times and years and names and things like that. But it was just unbelievable. And after that, they knocked the place, and I think we eventually got into the Barrows after much talk with the police and everything else like that. And we got in, and once again, we had some great nights in Glasgow again. But it's always been funny. The police are very awkward about it. They any little excuse at all, they want to ban you. Yeah. But you have to go along and just get on with it.
A couple of years ago, or maybe I think it was like yourself, it's probably about 5 or 6 years ago when we were there, and someone said there was a gun shot outside, and it made the press and all that. And I remember coming out, like you always leave early, and we hang on to the death and try and drink off the end of our cans, and eventually got thrown out of the Barrowlands. And I remember coming down the stairs. Now I'd put sup a drink on me now at this stage, because when yourself, when you come off the stage and you're buzzing from, you're well used to it, but I was buzzing anyway. And I walked down the stairs, and I came out, and there was loads of police all on the ground, all on their hands and knees, and I was like, I didn't do it, holding my hands up, wasn't me, I've just gone this way. And then the next day it was all over the press that there was a gunshot outside the thing.
Yeah, I went crazy over that.
There wasn't a gunshot. It was because I was talking to other people that said it was just either something backfiring or November to Guy Fawkes.
Yeah, the crackers.
To be off around that time. It was just.
It was an excuse to harass the. Yeah. They put it in the papers that, and the papers took it over here in Ireland as well.
I remember, yeah.
And I challenged it everywhere, and I did write to our ambassador, and I got onto the Edinburgh, to the people in Edinburgh, and I challenged it all. I said, this is not a fact. There was no gunshots. It had nothing to do with the Wolf Tones. The Wolf Tones were finished out their concert. People enjoyed themselves and went home quietly. There was no problems whatsoever, and there never is. Yeah. But you see, this is the type of thing. And I said, if I let this go, people are going to believe, there's gunfights and all at the Wolf Tones shows, which they latch onto, and there's not a single truth in it. Yeah. But that's the way they can blacken your name and get you banned and get you a bad name that, don't go to their concerts, there's going to be a fight there. People believe that stuff if they see it in the paper. And it was not even near the truth. Yeah. And if there was anything that happened, it certainly wasn't to do with the Wolf Tone show, but even if it was a firecracker, it had nothing to do with our people.
No.
So the important thing is that we got the message across. Don't believe these stories you believe you see in the papers. I've copies of those stuff.
And the East End of Glasgow wouldn't be the quietest place in the world anyway, regardless.
No, but
of
it's normal.
Yeah.
Normal stuff. Yeah. Fish and chips after the show, or roast mouths.
Like I said, I've never seen trouble after the Wolf Tones.
Never had, and never will.
Everybody's generally in good form. Now, you do get the odd asshole that's had a lot of drink, but that's just part and parcel of gigs. And I remember going to the Late Late Show one time, and probably a lot of people won't know this, but normally when they're interviewing people, they have plants in the audience, so they're not just random people that they're interviewing. You know, they don't just happen to put up their hand or pick someone, but they had the two press guys and the Ian, what was the man's name? Ian something or
Ian Doherty, and they had the other guy, Crawford.
What a pile of shite they talked, you know.
Yeah, well, Michael Crawford, I think it was, afterwards he said, I'm sorry, because he got all his facts wrong, you know, and the thing about it is, like, a journalist especially should do his facts before he does it. Like that other asshole, what's his name? My buddy.
Fintan O'Toole. Finbar O'Toole.
Well, when Finbar was on the show, Fintan was on the show, he made very terrible mistakes. Like when he wrote the article about the Wolf Tones, he said that the helicopter escape was from Mount Jai. Not from Mount Jai, from the Crumlin Road jail in Belfast.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he's a journalist, gone through this, a historic moment. He's written books about 1916. He probably copied them.
That's only recently, isn't it? I see, because there's been a lot of documentaries, and I'm going, why did they have this fool on? Like, he's no more interest in it. You know, he's just trying to make a book.
Well, you know, to do anything for money, you know, that's what he is. He's a guy that's trying to make a living, but he might be trying to make a living, but he wants to stop everybody else. Believe me, but don't believe anybody else. And nobody else has a right of expression. He's a kind of a know-all guy, and a guy that thinks he's smarter and better than anybody else. He thinks he knows everything about everything. And this type of guy knows nothing about nothing, because he's trying to know everything.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You have to specialise in one thing or another. Yeah. That's the way it is today.
So for anyone that hasn't seen it, you can find it on YouTube. Just type in
Wolf Tones
and Fintan O'Toole.
Or you could type in Wolf Tones on an asshole.
Hashtag.
Maybe you might find that better. Yeah, but I must tell you this story. We were playing over in New Jersey, and these two guys came up to me, you know, after the show. Said, we enjoyed the show, it was great. Two American kids, you know. And he said, we're going to, can't remember the college now, it's in Rutger College, I think it is.
Oh, Rutger, yeah.
And he says, we're doing journalism. And he says, guess who we have as one of our teachers there? I said, no. He said, Fintan O'Toole.
Oh, God. Lucky them.
Yeah. So I proceeded to ask them how did they feel about him. And they asked me the same. And I told them exactly what I said, that he was a poor journalist. He never researched properly and all that kind of thing. And I asked them, and they said, they put them out like he puts them with the lip gum on my. So they weren't fully. I said, I tell you what to do. I said, I'm going to give you a headband. And I said, when you see him tomorrow morning, give him the headband from Brian Warfield. I'm sure he's going to wear it for the rest of the day.
You make his day.
Well, that's the way it goes. But yeah, it's funny how life goes around you. You know, it always comes back, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
He thought he was being smart, and I don't think it done him any good in the end.
No, but the argument that you put across was very well formed, and you definitely came out a lot on top of someone that, you know, was well prepared to ambush you before you went into it. So.
Yeah, well, it wasn't the first time you'd been ambushed by RTE.
And then Phelim doing your plant.
Phelim did the plant. Done a good job too.
He did, yeah. No, he spoke very well. He did, yeah. No, Phelim's always a confident person in front of a mic. So we're 40 minutes in that, and I know you're getting tired. So we're going to call that a wrap for this week's episode, the Galway Races. And thanks again for listening. And if you've enjoyed the show and you're enjoying the show, don't forget to give us a recommendation to friends, family, or give us a like on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And we also, if you would like to ask any questions of either myself or my dad, the email address for the show is ramblingirish@outlook.ie. So just ramblingirish@outlook.ie. So we play out with the Galway Races by the Wolf Tones from the 1965 album The Foggy Dew. Gura Mila Malkut, and thanks again for listening. Bye bye.
As I rode down to Galway town to seek for recreation on the 25th of August, my mind was elevated. The multitude assembled with their tickets at the station. Me eyes began to dazzle as I go on to see the races with K-White. Fall the diddly idle day. There were multitudes from Arran and 1,000 there from Clifton. The boys from Connemara and the Clare and Mary ladies were people from Cork City who were loyal, true and faithful. They brought home the Fenian prisoners from dying in foreign nations. Wicky wack, fall the diddly idle day. The tents are in rotation in the middle of the course, with the best accommodation voices full they can produce. And the landlady inside with her bottle and her water, she multiplying the whiskey lest the booze should run shorter. Wicky wack, fall the diddly idle. This day you'll see the pipers and the fiddlers competing, the nimble-footed dancers and they tripping on the daisies, and they call for whiskey freely and they pay before they go. And the tiddle that gets among the crowd their own will never know. Wicky wack, fall the diddly idle. You'll see confecting yours with sugar sticks and cakes to accommodate the ladies and to modify the taste, and the gingerbread and lozenges and lemonade and raisins, the peaks, spuds for tuppence to be chewing while you're able. Wicky wack, fall the diddly idle. You'll see the long man with the firing at the hoop, and the men with the lungy atoms that they call it slick at the loop, and the timber men so nimble with their fingers full of sparkle, and the splendid wheel of fortune with its 4 and 20 quarters. Wicky wack, fall the diddly idle. This day you'll see the jockeys, and they dress in blue and green, and mounted on the horses most commodious to be seen, and the bugle sounds for starting, and the people shout for joy, and the betting tents are won upon the horse that wins the prize. Wicky wack, fall the diddly idle. Oh, now me coat is ripe as I'm into any song. Success attend the sport, the kings and races first begun, and I've been to all the places and I've never seen all the races, but I'm sure that I'll return again to see the Galway Races. Wicky wack, fall the diddly idle.